Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video, and I am your Destiny Dad. I know normally I would say welcome back to our weekly video, but I'll get into that in a minute here. Firstly, I want to apologize for basically missing all of my regular uploads this past week. Tuesday I think was a little justifiable. It was day one of Edge of Fate and just a lot going on, a lot to hop into, a lot to do, you know. And I think it was pretty reasonable for me to be able to miss a day there. Not necessarily pump out content and more so focus on playing the game. But I do try typically and get out some sort of, hey guys, I will be missing this upload, or I will be late for this upload kind of updates. And I know I didn't do that this time, and I just wanted to apologize for that, because that was not what my intention was. I didn't intend on missing it either. It just happened, and there's a lot of IRL things that got in the way of me even playing the content day one, and realistically it would have come down to whether or not I got to play at all that day. So making a video would mean I would not have been able to just play in general, because I barely got to play as is. So I just kind of made the choice to sit down, enjoy my time on the game, and worry about uploads later. Now, secondly, there's been a lot of reworks, a lot of new stuff that's been happening, and the game feels, to be perfectly honest, I think the game feels very good. I think it's in a really solid spot, and I think it's a lot more enjoyable than it's been in a good while if you are someone who actually likes Destiny and isn't just playing it to play something. I think if you are one of the people who was completely fine with it as is and just didn't care if it got better or worse, it was just something to do, I don't think you'll care, and maybe you won't even like it because it's a huge shift in game is. But I think if you're someone like me who genuinely loves the game, cares about the game, wants it to be the best that it can be, I think you'll agree that while this is a pretty big shift, pretty big change, I think most, if not all of it, was good and for the better. And I think there are definitely some growing pains that we're in right now, but I think that in the coming weeks and on into the months and years coming up of Destiny content that we hopefully get, I think those will be something that we can get through. But that being said, brings me up to a little conundrum I'm having, because I don't know that anybody's going to care about Banshee anymore. I know that immediately as soon as they took away his rewards pass and reworked all the vendors with that kind of stuff, immediately people basically said Banshee is worthless now. Now, there have been people who've said that for a while as is, because he doesn't have the newest, shiniest stuff, he's just got weapons. And they're not even crazy, OP, the hottest weapons. It's just mostly world drops in random old gear that's unobtainable anymore and stuff like that. I'm sure by now that most, if not all of you, are aware of my philosophy that anything can be good, and that just because it's not the newest or the shiniest does not make it bad. But I will say, with the new weapon tiering system, I think that there definitely is a power shift. I don't think that it's such a shift that, like, let me see if I have anything in here just off rip. Right, okay, this. I have an Adept Deliverance. Now this is a PvP role, this is not a PvE role for sure. But this thing has almost 100 range. Perpetual motion, tap the trigger, extended barrel. I could actually go for 100 range if I wanted to. But the point being is, actually, you know what? I might low-key do that. Oh, but then I lose that. Okay. Anyways, the point that I'm getting at is, you know, a gun like this is not going to just not be good anymore, right? As you can see, where's my tracker here? I've used this a decent bit, nothing crazy. I've used a lot of other fusions, a lot more than that, but you know, like that, or something like this. This Rufus Fury Adept is just not going to stop being good, right? I've got some better examples kicking around in here somewhere. I know I've gotten some really god tier loot in here. Right, Deadlock. This roll of Deadlock is not going to stop being good. Even if it's not a tier 5, it still is what it is, you know. It's not a Refusal of the Call Adept. This is not gonna stop being good. I would say it could have had Replenishing Aegis and been a little bit better, but I've used this thing so much, and Envious Assassin really goes hard. You know, things like that. Even like this. I got this the last, one of the last days of the Rights of the Nine. Lone Wolf Headseeker, 83 range, and 62 stability. High impacts maybe aren't the best case right now, but this is one of like the craziest rolls you'll ever see on a pulse rifle. Just like at all, especially a high impact. Right? Like, I mean, look at this. Terror, Firefly, Elemental, Headseeker. Look at the other one that I had. No, I thought I had one more kicking around somewhere. It might be on a character. Point being, I think there's a lot of stuff that is still really, really good. I don't think it's going to stop being really, really good purely because of a weapon tier system, right? And even, I said it before and I said it now, I don't think that, like, in a lot of cases, a tier 5 weapon is going to be so overly powerful that it just towers over everything else in the game. I think that the biggest draw to tier 5 is the fact that it has multiple perk drops, and I think that the next biggest draw to like tier 3, 4, and 5 is that it just comes enhanced, essentially, right? There's no more materials that you have to sink into it. There's no more investing that you have to do. It just comes as is, and if it's good, it's good. If you like it, you like it. Great, you got a bunch of extra perks on it, so if you're hunting for a specific role, you get, you know, 3 times the chance. It takes it from like a 1 in 30,000 to like a 1 in 10,000 chance, right? If you ever done that kind of math to see, you know, what the odds are of getting a perfect weapon, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But just having an extra perk or 2 in each column really takes your run down to next to nothing, basically, if you're able to get those tier 5s, tier 4s reliably. But for the fact of the enhanced origin trait, the enhanced magazine, the enhanced barrel, the, you know, stuff like that, I really don't foresee it being such a game changer in the moment-to-moment gameplay. I can't see Bungie doing anything crazy with any of those. I could see an enhanced origin trait increasing the time of the upkeep of the origin trait perk or something like that. You know, if it would last 3 seconds, it lasts 5, and in some cases something like that can definitely be very, you know, meta. Like imagine a tier 5 enhanced Vice Stinger origin trait, so it, like, its internal cooldown gets halved. Right. I could see a world where that trait specifically is insanely strong, borderline overpowered. But beyond that, like, what are they gonna do to accurized rounds? Enhanced accurized rounds is not gonna give you a free 5% damage bump. It's not gonna give you an extra 5 or 10 rate, right? It's gonna give you an extra 2, an extra 3. And, you know, somebody was talking about that. I forget if it was Mactix or Walla, but one of them was saying how, you know, for PvP it's gonna matter because PvP is a game of inches. If you have 51 range or 54 range on a hand cannon in PvP, it can make a difference in your fight. If you and somebody else have the same exact hand cannon, but yours is tier 5, so your max range is 78, and they have a tier 3, so their max range is 72, you know, that will make a difference. But in the general overall game and moment-to-moment gameplay, I don't think it's really going to make that big of a difference. You know, my adepts are still going to be good, my raid gear is still going to be good, my crafted weapons, my Tanashas, my Aisha's Care, you know, like all that kind of stuff. That stuff's still gonna go really hard, and I'm still gonna, I mean, even this past week, 90% of my gameplay that I've done this week has been with the Cold Comfort from Rights of the Nine and with Mountaintop. And while running Encore, I mean, obviously Mountaintop, you know, is good for rocket jumping and whatnot. But while running Encore, I was using the Slammer Adept Sword with Eager Edge and Cold Steel, and I was using Mountaintop. And then during the campaign, I was using Mountaintop and sometimes Eager Edge Sword, sometimes the Rocket, depending on the encounter and what I was doing. Right. I will say I was using the new Scout Rifle. What is it? Trinary Code or whatever it's called. And I think everybody was, because not only was it super strong and OP, it didn't feel super strong and OP, it just felt good to use. And I think the numbers that it put out felt normal compared to like what everything is doing now after the squish. But, you know, I would say that it also just, it felt good and was a fun gun to use. I don't think it was purely because it was doing extra damage. But either way, I did use that a decent bit, but outside of that, I didn't really change anything. Like you can even see now, like I haven't gotten any armor that's getting me any sort of stat benefit above what I have currently. The only thing I am trading out is a class item. If I get like a tier 1 or a tier 2 class item, which you can see here I don't have, right? I did get one on my hunter. But if I get a class item, I am systematically going through and getting rid of my old class items because there's not a real reason to keep them anymore. Even though they get the +3 in their artifice armor, and I farmed really hard for these. A base stat like a tier 1 class item. What does my hunter have? Trying to remember here. And my browser's not wanting to load. Okay, tier 1 has a total of 81 stats on the class item. Right. So even though this is artifice armor and I get that +3, my total is still 25. Right, getting 80 total stats to spend in wherever I want and wherever I can get them. That artifice armor is just, you know, not really worth the artifice slot. If you can continue to get artifice armor and maybe you're able to get, you know, tier 4, tier 5 armor drops from a master raid or a master dungeon and have it be artifice, yeah, then an artifice piece of armor. I would even argue that like a tier 3 or tier 4 artifice armor with good stats will be better than a tier 5 that's not artifice. Same way that it's always been, you know. God roll non-adept is better than a garbage roll adept and so on. But All of this is to kind of say that Banshee's inventory, which has mostly been world drop weapons or old weapons that aren't available anymore, craftable weapons, things like that. He's been used as a catch-up mechanic, and his update is really, really good. They've updated him to bring a lot of really solid weapon options that he was never able to bring before. But the problem is that world drops now are actually good. World drops have always had the potential to be good if you got the right roll, or if you got this, you got that, right? But now the new world drops, one, it just feels like the perk pools on them are insane. Like, I haven't really saved many weapons. I think I've only saved one, maybe two, from playing the campaign and doing encore and doing things like that. I've gotten a lot of drops, but every single weapon drop that I got, I kept looking at it being like, man, that is such a good roll. Oh wow, that can get this? What? They put that perk in that column now? Like, just every single weapon I see, I've been saying stuff like that. And I purely haven't saved them because I'm elitist when it comes to my own account, and if it's not a tier 5, I'm not going to save it. If it's not a tier 4, if it's not, you know, an adept, right? That's why you see me missing a decent bit of trials loot, because if I couldn't get a good roll of the adept version, I'm not going to run around with the non-adept version. I just, like, if a better version of the gun exists, I'm not going to use the worst version, even if it's still basically just as good. It's a mental thing for me. And I do not recommend that you play the game that way, because it adds just a level of stress and annoyance that does not need to be there, right? Case in point, this is one of the only weapons that I have that I've saved that is available in an adept form that is not adept. Now this is basically like the godliest, you know, perfect roll that you can have. And it's insane, and this weapon is so strong. And I absolutely love it. Problem is, it's not the adept version, and it's not shiny. And I spent hours upon hours this past entire 6-month season we just came out of. If I wasn't doing anything else on the game, I was farming for an adept psychopomp. Because I just wanted the adept, and I wrestled with myself if I even wanted to keep that roll, even though it was perfect. I didn't want to keep it because it wasn't adept, right? That's just how my mental is, because I put so many hours in this game. Why would I keep the non-adept version? Why would I keep the you know? So for right now, the only weapon I believe I've actually saved, I just got this as a drop from somewhere, so it's still in my inventory, but I'm not saving that. It's actually a decent PvP roll, but I don't think this will see a ton of use. But I got a roll of the new pulse rifle, the rocket frame pulse rifle. Let me see if it's here in my mint retrograde. Yeah, I got a tier 2 or a tier 3 drop of it, and it had, I think mine had stats for all and bait and switch, and it's on a different character. I don't know if you like pulling it over right now, but I just saved it because everybody's talking about how broken this gun is, and I was just like, sure, why not? Let's use it, right? It was good enough that I was like, all right, we'll keep it. I'm not investing in it. I didn't level it up. I didn't enhance it. Didn't put a shader on it. You know, I just been using it, and it's really solid and it's really fun. But I know that I'm gonna get a better one down the line. I'll get a tier 4. I'll get a tier 5, and then that one will get dismantled. But when it comes to Banshee now, the problem I foresee going forward is, let's just look at his inventory right now, right? Does anybody care about the Lodbrok? I can say that specifically this roll is not really good, and I would pass on it. I think that Osmosis has its use, but I think paired with Tap the Trigger, you're not going to use this in PvP. You're not going to use that in PvE because Tap the Trigger is pointless in PvE. Osmosis, I think, is slept on, and I think when you're able to pair it with like a good damage perk, or just ammo perk or something like that, Osmosis Demolitionist, you know, whatever. Yeah, that Osmosis is good. Osmosis is not the problem. The problem is that this auto rifle itself isn't really solid, and what little bit of value it had of maybe being this role, maybe being that role, even if it was niche and there was little to no chance that it would actually show up in Banshee's inventory as a perfect 5 out of 5, nobody's going to come and pick up a Lodbrok when you can go and play hard difficulty stuff and get a tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 new kinetic weapon. You're just not going to use this, right? And I think that's the thing where things are going to start to get hurt, is like your older world drops, your older seasonal weapons. Like, I'm sitting here looking at this and yeah, none of this interests me in even a little bit. And you guys know me, like, there have been so many times where I've sat and said, you know, oh hey, you know, this looks good, that looks good, blah 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 blah, and just people have been in the comments like, oh, that's such a bad take, why would you ever use that, why would you ever, you know. But now world drops are actually going to be strong, and not just because there's one roll out of 5,000 that they can get, but simply because they have value and they have power and they have, right? And maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I'm kind of wondering, is anybody going to actually care about Banshee anymore? Because a lot of people didn't already. Now, I know for myself, there were certain weapons, his foundry weapons, that you could farm for. You could get random rolls of. There's one or two of those that I was looking for. And there was a couple of them that were real solid. And there's a few other weapons that he could get. But, you know, he's getting the stuff from the heresy weapons. That's fantastic. The heresy weapons are really good, but they're not adept, they won't have multiple stat drops, and they won't be the shiny versions. So the origin trait that is the best on almost all of those weapons, you can't get. And you can't get the adept versions, which gives you stat bumps and incremental increases and makes them better than the other versions. So you just get the base version. And there's going to be things like the Strand support frame auto rifle. There's not been a new support frame added to the game, to my knowledge anyway. There might be one with the raid, I don't really know. I don't believe so. I feel like I would have heard about it if there had been. But either way, let's see. Abyss Defiant, Duty Bound, Summoner. Okay. It's a precision frame. Yeah, we got a new precision frame and a new adaptive frame. So currently, there are still only 2 healing frame auto rifles. And if you want one that's not taking up your energy slot, well then you need the Strand one from last season. So the fact that Banshee sells that and has the potential to have a good roll, something with reciprocity or something with, oh, what was the other one? I can't remember the other one, but you guys hopefully understand my point. So moving forward, I don't fully know if we're gonna cover Banshee. I don't know that there will be a point in covering Banshee. Before, I made the argument that just because something wasn't adept didn't mean that it was bad, or just because that something wasn't the meta didn't mean it was bad, and I still believe that. But I believe that the general viability of weapons that you get and see moment to moment has gone up by quite a bit. So forgive me for yapping for so much. Recording is at just about 25 minutes here. I'm going to see what Ada has here and wrap up, I believe. But this week Ada has Envious Touch, which is a very nice shader, and I definitely recommend grabbing. New Pacific Sync, that's actually a really pretty blue. I know that I have it, but I don't think I've ever actually looked at that on something. That's nice. And then Dead Orbit Resurrection, a decent black and white shader. It's closer to gray than black, but it still is a very nice looking shader. As for the armor, actually not terrible stats, but once again, similar vein with Ada here. Used to be, you know, maybe you would find a weird spike in a stat, or maybe this, maybe that. When we start getting tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 armor, which we can do already, it's just a little painful, but it's not impossible by any stretch of the means. Even like if this stuff was 68, I wouldn't pick it up, because I know that most of my armor is already at that level. And I'm not going to buy old armor to invest in it when there's new armor to be chased. And the new armor, when I get to the point where it's getting to that high end level, when I get to tier 4, tier 5, it's going to be better than a 68 roll. There might be the odd chance of like this, right? We've got super and a health, right? Or super and weapons. You know, you might see something that pops up with that, like that super weapons and grenade. That's not a stat line that you can get anymore. But is this pair of boots at a base level 63 with 15 in each of those stats, is that going to be enough to make you use this over a tier 5 that can get into, you know, the 20s and 30s in each of those stats, right? So, I don't know. This is more of a yap session than an inventory review, I believe. And I apologize for that. I try and not just run my mouth a bunch. I think, honestly, I might just sort of upload this one mostly raw. Put some background music so it's not just my voice and nonsense going on. But I don't think I really edited this one too heavily. I think this was more of a yap session than it was an actual inventory review. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Zur will still be able to review that, and I don't want to stop making content. I've been saying for a long time I've wanted to make more content and do more different types of videos and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and I still want to do that. I just don't know fully the direction of where to go. And the fact that a lot of the stuff that I had been covering before, which may have been niche, but was still good, still usable, I don't know, I feel like it maybe is actually starting to get to the point where it's reasonable to say, I don't care about Banshee, or I don't care about that world drop. I think before it was, I don't care about that world drop, I'm going to go and farm a Grandmaster, which, you know, is reasonable, but I do still think that the world drop weapons had value and they retained something or other, and, you know, if it was something usable, it was something usable, regardless of whether it had an adept, you know, stamp on it or not, we could still do stuff with it. But I think that now the current world drops that we're getting, the current just moment-to-moment weapons, they're really strong, and that excites me for those weapons. But that, you know, a 1 in 20,000 chance that Adamantite is going to be a Banshee with reciprocity and hatchling, that doesn't really excite me. And it could happen, and if it does happen, I'm sure I would say something about it to you guys, because that would be an insane roll for anybody's account unless you already have it. But the fact that it's not adept means that its stats are just worse. And if we got another new support frame, it in the top slot, it could likely and very much probably would just outclass it at tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and so on, because it's not adept, it's not shiny, and it just wouldn't be able to keep up. I hate the term power creep. I think that is just an excuse for devs to be lazy with how they build games more often than not. I think that in a literal sense, things just get stronger over time, right? You release a game, there's a challenge. You complete that challenge, you as a player have gotten stronger. You earn the strongest gear in the game because it's locked behind that challenge. You, as an account, have gotten stronger. So then you're able to go and tackle that initial challenge with relative ease. So the next challenge they release has to be newer and harder, and that just kind of does cycle through. But I don't think that that's power creep in the way that people use it. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that's good. But I think that overall, there should always be challenge in a game that you play, and you should always want to get better as a player, and there should always be, you know, new gear to grind for, and I think that's good. But in the sense of things just at a base level being stronger, you know, like my glissando is probably not gonna be something that I keep, and most of you probably don't even know what that gun is. It's a Strand Scout Rifle. I believe it's a 180. It can roll with Explosive and Hatchling. My roll that I have is Overflow and Hatchling. It was one of the few Strand Scout Rifles in the game, and it was really fun. Now, is there a new Strand Rifle currently? No, but guess what is stranded in that top slot and is super strong? Mint Retrograde. Now it is a special weapon. It's not a Scout Rifle. I'm aware that, you know, I'm kind of comparing apples to oranges there, but it is a Strand top slot weapon that can have similar rolls and is insanely strong. And that's like just at a tier 1, tier 2. When it gets to tier 5 and can have multiple rolls and bonus to damage and bonus to stats and you know, it's the more niche, more world drop, more weaker but usable weapons are the ones that are taking the biggest hits. Your adepts, your shinies, your stuff from Heresy, your Ride of the Nine gear, your, you know, hard weapons and time lost weapons, all that stuff is fine. That stuff is not getting dismantled anytime soon, and I knew that from the start. But I think that more so than the world tiers, or the gear tiers rather, I think the fact that we're just putting super broken perks on world drops in broken combinations, like Priestinax. I farmed so much to get a good roll of that bow and I love it, but Priestinax now, you can get Firefly in the left column and Elemental Honing in the right. Like with the low enough draw time, that will blow my Adept roll with Archer's Tempo and Precision Instrument out of the water in the right build. Now, yeah, that does belong in a specific build. You're going to want to build around that bow. It's going to be, you know, right short. But like, that's one of those guns that just like, that is an insane perk combination. And the fact that that is just a gun that I'm getting for playing the game, just like as a world drop essentially, it makes the kind of stuff that Banshee and Ada have feel useless to me for the first time. It's always felt weaker than a lot of its counterparts. It's always felt more niche, but always felt usable. But now it really doesn't feel like it's gonna be usable much longer. So I don't know if I will keep doing Banshee stuff. Maybe I'll just take Tuesday. I've been wanting to do some extra videos in the week, but just with the schedule, between my schedule and the schedule that I had set up of Tuesday and Friday, there wasn't ever a time that felt super comfortable to upload or sit and record or anything like that. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe we drop the Banshee review videos and we start doing other content. But I don't know. I'm gonna try and shut up now. It's been almost 35 minutes. And this, as I said, is probably going up pretty raw. There might be a snip here and there. Might be able to get it down to 30. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you guys still want to see Banshee reviews? I didn't even really review Banshee. I know Ada will be semi-useful, but Banshee, I don't really feel like he will be. It kind of makes me sad. But let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Tell me if you guys really want me to keep covering Banshee, or if there are certain weapons that you're looking out for that you would like me to at least make a community post about if he pops up selling it with a good roll someday. Let me know how you guys are enjoying Edge of Fate. Personally, I'm having a ton of fun with it. I'm enjoying it a whole bunch, and I'm excited to stop talking and upload this video so I can get back to playing. But yeah, with all that being said, thank you all for watching. If you made it this far and watched the whole video and actually listened and cared about what I was saying, I appreciate it. I know that I do have a proclivity to yap, and I probably will do more videos like that in the future. I do have a Dad Yaps playlist, I believe, but I think I only have 1 or 2 videos in it. This one will probably actually go in there as well, because it wasn't really a review of any sort, so I don't know. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, or if you are enjoying just the channel in general, be sure to follow before you head off. If you liked what you saw, be sure to leave a like. Both of those help the channel grow a whole bunch. And I hope to see you guys more for more future content. And I apologize again for being late and for missing this past week. And I hope you guys are all enjoying Edge of Fate, and I hope you all have a good week. I've been your Destiny Dent, and I will talk to you guys next time I see you. Have a good week, Guardians.